specifically, let me first say on Iran and how you see the Iran trajectory unfolding and how you see Turkey playing a role vis-a-vis Iran.
I think Iran, in the short run, is a very serious problem and could result in some sort of a crisis that would be, I think, regionally very destabilizing and probably would confront us with even more dire prospects than the ones that we face currently. In the long run, Iran has all of the necessary preconditions for positive political change. If you look at the fundamental sort of socio-economic statistics of the country, in every respect, it's comparable to Turkey. And it's not an accident, incidentally, because when Turkey embarked on its modernization in the 1920s, the Iranians followed shortly thereafter, within half a decade, and had more or less the same objective. And both were intensely focused on the German model as relevant to their development at the time, in the pre-Nazi German model, of course. I think that Iran, in the short run, of course, poses the question of how do we adjust to the reality that it is an ambitious regional power, strong, quite capable of waging protracted warfare. If we were to become engaged, we would probably find our problems in Iraq, Afghanistan, and the Persian Gulf greatly magnified. And we would probably be embroiled for a long, long time, much longer than our current involvement, with an outcome which, of course, would be decisively in our favor if we used all of our power. But we wouldn't be able to use all of our power because we are self-limited when it comes to unconventional warfare. Mm-hmm. We cannot, in the context of an unconventional warfare, unleash all of the weapons at our possession and therefore wipe out the enemy, more or less what we did to Japan and to Germany in 1945. So we could be bogged down. But in the long run, if we don't engage in policies which encourage the fusion of Iranian fundamentalism with Iranian nationalism, then I expect that the theocratic phenomenon in Iran will prove to be transient, that it is almost irrational in its scale. It's heavily based on the more backward rural areas of Iran. Iran is urbanizing, it is changing, and it is a society in which it has a relatively high number of people in institutions of higher learning. And we saw them on the streets of Tehran more than a year ago when there was the abortive Iranian Spring at work, which unsuccessfully failed. And what is interesting is that there are more women, actually, in Iranian universities than there are men. And the picture of a kind of primitive, totally theocratic Iranian society does not correspond to the realities in the city, in the cities, I should say. And what struck me, for example, during those manifestations was how similar the young people of Iran are in appearance, in manner, in slogans, to what one sees also on the tube elsewhere, including Europe. So my expectation is that, in 10 years from now, in 15 years from now, if there is no major eruption in the American-Iranian relationship, Iran will resume what I think is its basic thrust, which is to become a modern power, and it will fulfill, I think, the changing and more compatible aspirations of the Iranian people.